All right. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good day so far. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. To anyone else joining us on other time zones, I guess it's still good morning. Thank you for joining us for the April Advisor webinar about recognizing success. My name is Kelsey Morsi, and I serve the Delta Upsilon staff as a chapter development director. I've been with the fraternity for about 2 years now. And in my role, I have the opportunity of traveling to a lot of different chapters to not only work on improvements with the chapters, but also to help celebrate successes, which has brought me here today to talk about this. I think recognizing and celebrating the good things that chapters are doing has been a definite strong focus of the fraternity ever since I've joined staff. So in our chapter development team meetings, we take time to talk about the positive things that our chapters have done recently. On chapter visits, we really try to take some time to ask about what are the positive things that are happening and try to provide some direct praise right there on the spot. And we also work with our communications team to really work on social media shout outs for chapters who have posted things online that have been really influential or just awesome events and programs. Additionally, more formally, in terms of recognition, we focus on the Leadership Institute Chapter of Excellence Plan Awards as well as sweepstakes. However, with all of this, we are unfortunately not on the ground 24/7 working with the chapters in the same sense that you guys as advisors are. So we all know, so we're going to talk about obviously getting into some of that today. So we all know that the role of an advisor is defined through a variety of tasks and responsibilities. All these range from meeting with undergraduates, monitoring success and progress on CEP, Men of Merit, hosting, attending chapter events, recruitment events, retreats, etc. However, I think my experience as an advisor to a chapter, as well as a staff member, is that I think the most influential role that we actually play is celebrating the successes the chapter or chapter members have. I think that by focusing on small wins, we're really starting to get to understand what our chapters need and want. Our chapters want the mentorship and advising that we give. However, they also want the support that comes through our celebrations and praise. I think it's really easy for us as advisors to get into the nitty-gritty with a chapter and only focus on all the things that they have to do, all the things that they haven't done yet, all the things that need to be done. I admit it, I do it every day with my chapters that I work with, but I think we need to really think about spending more time with our chapters, celebrating them formally and informally. And when we take that time, I find it opens doors to a much more open and trusting relationship and actually becomes a motivating factor for our chapters. So, I think students today like to be celebrated and recognized in a lot of different ways than what we as advisors have liked to be recognized and celebrated in the past. I think one of my favorite things to do is research millennials. I think millennials are a fascinating generation, and it wouldn't be right of me to not bring up what our students are like and use some research to help to describe how best to celebrate to recognize our men. So let's talk about what millennials or the men we work with are like. Let's see if I can get, there we go. Millennials are special. They're sheltered, confident, conventional, team-oriented, achieving, pressured, and so on and so forth. They've been told their whole lives how special they are, to be part of a team, to always push to be the best that they can be. They've been sheltered and lived highly structured lives. They set high expectations and goals for themselves and want to achieve these goals through collaboration. All of these characteristics set us up for a path of what type of recognition works best for our men. They want to be recognized immediately. They're the instant gratification generation. They're used to, mom and dad giving immediate praise for, winning the basketball tournament. They're used to their cell phones telling them everything that they want to know at a moment's notice. So I think that generations prior to this generation have received feedback in a lot of different ways. I mean, if any of you think about it, how many times have you thought in your jobs or in your schoolwork that not hearing feedback meant that you were doing just fine, that nothing really needed to be changed? Because if something wasn't good, someone would tell you, right? Unfortunately, millennials don't really think that way. Feedback is a positive thing for them. They want it constantly. They want it immediately. And if they don't get the feedback quickly, I think they begin to think they aren't doing a good job. They think of feedback as a term and form of coaching. They want that immediate gratification and that feedback because that's what makes them tick. That's what makes them want to continue to do better. And by knowing that they're continuing to do better, it becomes a motivating factor for them. So I think this goes into, what are some ways we can provide that immediate feedback and gratification that they want? Or in other words, focusing on how can we celebrate our chapters, how can we celebrate our members when they're doing really good things, in the world of fraternity. So let's focus on a few strategies that I think may be helpful for you guys. So the first one is non-financial incentives. I think we like to turn to money with college students. They all need it, or at least they all want more of it. It's an easy way to recognize positive things. We have a lot of chapters that give out scholarships for grades or reduce dues due to having the top GPA, things like that. I don't think I'm telling you guys to stop doing that. It's very important to have those scholarships. I think they're pivotal to the chapter continuing to think about what academics are and how they are a core value to the fraternity. We should always be promoting those academics. However, companies have been saying that millennials want progression in an organization more than anything. What that means is they want promotions and they want that network and they want to move up in the world. And that goes back to their high achieving, high goal mentality. So how do we translate that to our chapters? I think it comes down to one simple piece that fraternity men say they all want to get out of their experience, and that is really networking. Each chapter has successful alumni or has a network of alumni that are doing really good things in the community or near the community in which the college is at. So let's think about when a chapter does really, really well with recruitment, or they put on their best philanthropy event ever. Why don't we reward them in the next few weeks with, bringing somebody in to talk about his job, his career path, providing that networking experience, especially for someone that may be hard to get or someone that is really influential from the chapter. We ask chapters to do this anyway. I know it's a CEP point to do it, and it's a pivotal part of being part of an organization, but I think chapter members are really craving this right now. They're really wanting to find this network, and they really want those opportunities. So why not make this a reward in some way? Why not take some time to go to the non-financial way and give them something else that they're looking for? Next strategy is thinking about how to recognize achievements as soon as possible. Like I already mentioned, immediacy and recognition is the key to chapters knowing that they've done well. As advisors, we really do need to have all of the big events and big deadlines in our calendars. We're already supposed to be taking time to help them get to those deadlines and succeed. But I think right after those deadlines have passed or they've turned something in, we should be celebrating it with a phone call, a text message, an email, letting them know that they've done a good job. If you are on social media and are social media savvy, posting about it on your social media about the chapter did this week and it was really great, and saying how proud you are, that is very encouraging for chapter members these days as well. Another thing to think about is, encouraging chapters to weekly shout outs for Brother of the Week or Scholar of the Week, things like that. we tend to like to do one really big event at the end of every semester. We focus on all the accomplishments from the full year. We do this big shebang. Again, those are fun. Those are great times to get alum together with the chapter. We should continue to do that. But I also think we need to think about what are ways we can recognize achievements as soon as possible. So some examples of this are I work with chapters that do like Smart Duck of the Week or Mama's Fringe. At the beginning, or how they do this really is at the beginning of chapter, they pass around a piece of paper. And so say the chapter sets the goal at 80%. So anybody who at least received an 80% on a large project test or thing they had to do that week, if they at least got an 80%, they can write their name down, write the class name down. All these names get called out at the end of chapter. And then, some chapters will vote on who the smart duck of the week is. Some of them actually have a duck they pass around, and a lot of people like to get that. Others have candy bars. They go to Sam's Club or Costco and buy a big bunch of candy bars and hand those out to every person that has their name read aloud. This is an instant gratification for the week's work. It's also fun to spend it, a fun way to spend chapter. Every time I am with a chapter, when they do this, they're laughing, they're having fun, they're enjoying their time together, but they're still recognizing successes. So that's a way a chapter really focuses on doing the instant gratification piece, but as advisors, we can support this. We can think about what are ways maybe you can show up at the chapter meeting and facilitate that once a month. What are ways that we can maybe move the budget around and think about can we spend some money to get some candy bars to pass that out? Those little pieces of support that we can give is really important for our chapters to see. So it might not be direct support in the way that you see, it might not be direct recognition, but it is in a form you supporting and recognizing what chapters have done in an immediate way. The next step or strategy that I think works really, really well is personalizing rewards. Millennials love to be recognized and called out for good things. They enjoy having someone recognize that they've put a lot of work into something and that it's paid off in the long run. Or, even if it hasn't paid off, that at least they have spent a good amount of time and the effort that they put into something was worthwhile. So I think in the fraternity world, that means focusing more on the individuals of the group and not necessarily the group as a whole. I think we all know that every function or every event, activity, etc., that our chapter does, it is a whole chapter thing, but there are different members with different roles that actually make that event happen. So personalized communication in this is a great way to recognize members. You can reach out via phone call, text message, or email to one specific person. Let them know that you recognize that they put a lot of effort in. That alone goes miles these days. It puts a smile on the men's face. It makes them feel special. It makes them feel like they have done something above and beyond. It also means that we recognized it. They were noticed. So if you think about this with our exec board members specifically, they do a lot of stuff. They have a lot of responsibility. They're running our entire chapters. So, every once in a while sending a text message stating, hey, I know you've had a really rough week with school, but you still managed to, have a really good exec board meeting and you got a lot done. That message alone makes that exec board member feel so great. It makes them feel like, they had a bad week, but you recognize that they had that bad week and they still were able to pull off a good meeting. It also, focusing on not just the exec board, but emerging leaders or behind the scenes leaders. Those are so important too. I think sometimes they get left behind, but taking, the time to recognize that they spent an hour extra cleaning up after an event. That is a really good recognition piece to give them, that they're like, oh yeah, I did this. I spent that time. Any way that you can personalize any type of communication with them is going to be pivotal. I know, for example, when I think of young leaders that I would love to see attend Dual, it's our Emerging Leaders program over the summer. I send out specific emails to them to encourage them to attend. I say, hey, you've been recommended by an advisor or a staff member or by your chapter president, and we really think that you should go to this. I would say more often than not, men are going to sign up and try to attend Dual because they got that email more than if they just heard about it during a chapter meeting. The last strategy I think to think about is it fits right into personalized rewards, but adding context to the recognition. There should always be something that you're specifically telling them about thank you for, or that you recognize them for. A good job and pat on the back is no longer good enough for the millennial students. Utilizing phrases like good job, I am proud of you because you did blank. That is so much more meaningful to students, and they take that in a much better way than just a good job. I think making this or having this recognition also helps you create a meaningful relationship and a trust in you because you recognize something specific in them. But this doesn't always just go towards, I think, individuals, but also chapters. So if you're at a chapter meeting, it's about saying, hey, great job, recruiting the largest associate member class that we've ever had. I saw that you guys put extra effort this semester into your one-on-one meetings, and that definitely paid off for you guys. When you say it like that, the men know exactly what they've done, how it was good, and it encourages them to grow, and they know how they did it. They realize that you recognize them for what they've done and that they are going to then now continue to do that action. And I think this will help you in gaining some trust amongst the undergraduates, but also creating, again, more of a relationship so that they continue to trust your advice and what you have to say in the future, so that way they can also continue to grow, also continue to succeed. So I know a lot of this is conceptual and doesn't actually specifically exactly tell you 100% what you can do as an advisor to recognize your chapters. But I think understanding how our members perceive and want recognition is very, very important to helping you work with the chapter and in recognizing what they're doing. I think each chapter is going to value recognition on a really different level. But I think with all this context, you can kind of add some new things to your portfolio. I think ultimately any way that you're taking time to recognize the chapter with specific or chapter members with specific mentions, with personalization, and doing so in a constant and consistent manner, if you're doing that, that's great. I think we hear all the time that we only focus on the bad things that are happening. We get that about IHQ. We get that about our advisors. We get that from our fraternity and sorority life staff on campus. So I think changing our frame of reference, thinking about the small wins, even the smallest of the small things, and recognizing those, I think that's going to change our reference point for the undergrad men and motivate them to continue to grow in our relationships with IHQ or with you guys as advisors, but then that will ultimately then create growth in their programming, in their initiatives, in their chapter size, and then ultimately their overall success. So last thing, because I know we always like having specifics. I know we went through this kind of already, but I wanted to share a few things that I've personally seen advisors do that have been really helpful for the recognition of successes with chapters. So I think, again, personalized emails and notes are really good. Taking a member to lunch or dinner or coffee to not only just have a meeting, but to see how things are going and to recognize what they've been focusing on and doing and what they've done well. Connecting a member with an influential alumnus or career contact. Again, that goes back to my first strategy point. that's what men want in this fraternity experience these days. It's about the fun, yes, and all of that, but they really want that networking. And based on some of my communication with them, I don't know if all of them are getting that right now. So that would be a really good way to support and recognize their chapters. Some chapter advisors are great with this as well. If you're social media savvy, posting the successes on your social media, chapters and individual men love that. They love seeing that you guys have put that out in the world. Rent and dues reduction is good for, you know, anybody that's doing super well with grades or has worked really hard on a specific project and that was part of the agreement. And celebrate that way. You know, why don't the alumni or the advisors make a celebration event that's completely sponsored by them? You know, that could be a pizza party or, you know, a steak dinner or anything like that. Could be a really great recognition idea as well. Attend chapter meetings and give shout outs. All that does is take your time. So it's pretty easy to do, to show up if you're in the area, or call in. FaceTime, Skype are really great these days. Last two, so maybe sponsor a member to go to educational programming. So say a member has always wanted to go to GSI and he was the recruitment chair and he really did well that year. Maybe the advisors can sponsor him to go to GSI as that reward for him. And then also writing about the successes in the chapter alumni newsletter, letting them know, other alumni know what's good, encouraging them to post it on their social media if they have it, or encouraging them to write a letter or be out and about telling people about what's going on in the small wins or the big wins of the chapter. So those are some good recognition ideas that have gone really well with a lot of the chapters that I and some of my teammates have also worked with. So we'll wrap all of this up with, if anyone has anything to say or share, you can put it in your questions. I also would love to take any questions that you have based on what I have presented today. So you can write them in the question box below on your little tab bar if you see it, and I will just wait for a couple minutes and see what questions come in and answer them as I can. Again, if you want to share anything that you've done that's worked really well, I would love to see that as well and tell everyone else that's on the webinar about it. All right, I don't believe I am seeing anything come in right now. So I guess we will wrap up today. I hope that everything that we talked about made sense and maybe is starting to help you formalize or brainstorm what might be really cool to start recognizing your chapters with. I think anything that you can do to start small is really good. It doesn't take a lot of money. Sometimes it takes just a little bit of time to be able to recognize our chapters on their small wins and then really recognize them for their big wins. I know any chapter that I've worked with that we've done this with, even with small wins, we've seen some really positive growth growth and some positive relationships forming. So I'd love to hopefully see you guys do that. If you guys have any questions for me, my email address is morrissey@deltau.org, MORRISSEY @deltau.org. So if you have any questions for me, you can definitely let me know. Otherwise, I hope everyone enjoys your afternoon and have a great day.